I have a fundamental right to worship where my faith says Lord Rama was born.
He filed an FIR, but then I got it quashed by the Delhi High Court. He couldn't get very far. At that time I had said, now it's my turn.
Today the situation is that we are suffering because no new structural reforms have been brought.
Well, we have with us our favorite guest, Dr. Subramanian Swamy. Begin with your favorite topic, the Ram Mandir.
First, let me tell you the basis so that you understand why the solution. I have a fundamental right to worship where my faith says Lord Rama was born. There's no dispute on that. There was a temple there before. There's no dispute on that because the archaeological surveyor has given a unanimous report. And there's also a commitment of the Narasimha Rao government that if there was a pre-existing temple, we'll hand it over to the Hindus. Now, as far as the masjid is concerned, I have verified from scholars all over the world, Islamic scholars from all over the world. They say it is a place where Muslims gather for reading namaz and getting pravachans. But it is not a religious place. It is not a place which is immutable. Therefore, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Turkey, even Pakistan, they very often for constructive purposes like building a new building or putting a road, especially in Turkey, they demolish a large number of masjids or give them an alternative site to build a masjid. So, today where the Babri Masjid once stood, there is no nearby Muslim population. The Muslim population is now mostly, particularly the Shia Muslims whose masjid it was, are on the borders of Ayodhya and the next district which is called the Ambedkar district. So the Shias are justifiably saying that there's no use building a masjid in the same area as the Ram temple because we have to go long distances for it. It's better to build it there and we are ready for it. The Wahhabi Muslims, Sunni Muslims, who really don't have, don't have a claim because it is not a Sunni masjid. But still they have been there because nobody challenged their position, now it's being challenged. They regard this as a Hindu-Muslim fight. Although their prayer is based on property. Now, even
they
if
have no rights over.
And that is a lower right than a fundamental right. So the court, I had argued this matter on the very first day. I have a fundamental right. They have an ordinary property right. There's a clash over the same issue. Supreme Court in 5 judgments has said when fundamental right and ordinary right clash, fundamental right shall prevail. So I said there's no need to proceed, just don't even have to hear them. If you are convinced I have a fundamental right, which I'll argue, then the matter ends there. But the court said we'll hear you last because it would have been too much upheaval if they said we don't have to hear the Muslim parties at all. Because their propaganda would have been quite severe. Yeah. So their solution is build a masjid but elsewhere and let the Hindus build Ram Lala temple. It's not just Ram temple, it's Ram Lala temple. He was only born at one place.
Correct.
So there's no other place.
When between Chandrasekhar and Narasimha, there was Rajiv Gandhi also. You were very close to Rajiv.
Yeah,
did you take this matter? What did Rajiv do anything on the Ram?
We would never have had a Ram movement but for Rajiv Gandhi. He did 2 things against his own party advice. And I'm eyewitness to this. And I shall always regard him as a great man because of that. First is, for whatever reason, he ordered the keys, the locks to be removed. So what was inside under a cage now became a temple. So in fact the Babri Masjid was converted into a temple because puja started. All right. Second thing he did, he allowed Shilanyas of the VHP. And I would say a third thing which was very crucial in mind makeup, he against advice of everybody allowed Doordarshan to show a serial on Ramayana.
That actually stirred the national conscience.
Yes, absolutely. So if I wouldn't feel bad if somebody said Rajiv Gandhi is the true author of the Ram movement, original author. We have written what is called as commentaries on it. But his contribution was very valuable. And he had told me personally that I think this is something I would like to do, because I feel that this should be done. And he, in fact, his first speech in elections of 1989 was from Faizabad.
He kicked off his campaign from there.
And what did he say? I believe in Ram Rajya. He said in his speech. Sad that these rascals, the LTT, killed him. He would have been a great second-term Prime Minister.
Yes, a lot of people are saying Rajiv in his 2.0 would have been
Yeah,
the
it would
best.
have been superb, because I had moved with him into this lowest point.
You've seen him.
And I used to see him practically every day, 2 a.m. in the morning. I used to get a lot of chocolates, put on a lot of weight as a consequence.
You've been somebody who's been closely observing the economy, one of the unsung heroes of the liberalization story, in fact, from Chandrasekhar days. How do you see where we are, the growth trajectory, and where we are now?
Well, first I would like to make clear that I have a dilemma when I speak on this matter. Because one side I am being a professor of economics, I have a PhD from the world's most famous university, I've worked with
That is Harvard,
Nobel,
for those who don't know.
Yes, and I've worked with Nobel laureates who have are considered the equivalent of Einstein in economics. Simon Kuznets, who invented the GDP, is father of national income. He's called father of the national income. And then
Now you're working with the government that's reinventing the GDP.
that's the part where I'm saying the dilemma.
Okay.
And then the other part is a multidimensional genius called Paul Samuelson, who also, both are Nobel laureates. And I was his joint author. Okay, there were very few people who joint authored with him. And I joint authored in a subject which is very relevant again for economics that we know today. And that is called index numbers. And the theory of index numbers. I mean, it was a classic paper, it's now considered the paper to read for index numbers, because all the solutions are there. So if I am loyal to my profession, I can't be loyal to the party, and vice versa. So I'll have to do some rope walking, tightrope walking.
But yeah, we'd like to see you in your role as the Harvard professor more than...
First of all, I'll say that between 1950 and 1990, when we followed the Soviet economic model, we could not cross 3.5% per year in GDP growth. The growth rate was that. And it was all due to the fact that we followed the Soviet Union's leftist policies, and the leftists in India, to hide that, they used to call 3.5% growth rate as the Hindu rate of growth. The Hindus always go slow, they cannot go fast. In 1990, Chandrasekhar became Prime Minister after I persuaded Rajiv Gandhi to support him, and it took me a little time to convince Chandrasekhar that he should accept the offer, because he was queasy about doing this kind of thing. He had to leave Janata Dal of VP Singh and do it. But I told him VP Singh himself is somebody who is a leftist party and joined Janata.
Correct, huh?
So you leaving Janata, and you're not leaving Janata, you're going to be a part of Janata party, but you have an alliance with, alliance is nothing, it doesn't make you a man who changes party. So finally we formed the government, then we decided to start reforms. Give up socialism and go in for market and so on. Now, the growth rate, which was for 40 years, 1950 to
89, I guess.
90, yeah, almost, 89, was 3.5% per year. Suddenly started rising year, and then Narasimha Rao took it up from our government, and in fact adopted all my reforms, which is there in his biography now. That how he came to my house and caught me and took me to his house, and he wanted me to join Congress, which I declined to do. I said, I can't join Congress, it's a family owned property.
But you were very on good terms with Rajiv at that time.
Rajiv, yeah,
So
Rajiv
then-
was also put a lot of pressure. He, in fact, he once called a press conference to announce. I told him, no, after elections. But then after elections, he was dead. But Rajiv had been there, I might have merged the Janata Party with Congress. But at that time, there was Sonia Gandhi was nowhere. But once she came on the scene, I knew that there's no place for people like me in Congress. So anyway, the fact is that the growth rate went up to 8%. And this is because of reforms. Today the situation is that we are suffering because no new structural reforms have been brought. And the same old thing of piling taxes. You see, the tax is an out-of-date instrument. It was all right in the 19th century and the early 20th century. But today we need other methods of revenue collection. One very far ahead, not today, we can't do it today because we are not ready for it. But in future, all taxes can be abolished, and all you do is put a 0.5% tax on banking transactions, and the money comes from the banks. For every transaction, they will put aside 0.5% for the government. So that will be 4 times the revenue you are generating today.
You widen the tax net.
You're not, there's no tax.
Yeah, yeah.
In transaction, it gets buried in the transaction. And transaction tax, it's called transaction tax, but we are not ready for it yet because
Is any country doing this?
Well, then there is when there is monetization of the economy, where everybody does monetary transaction, everybody does it through the bank, not outside the bank. Then it's a tax which you can anyway. So what I would say in short is that my book shows why from 1870 to 2019 we have not yet been able to transform ourselves into what we were once upon a time, the most prosperous country in the world. So in 1870 to 1947, clear the British was taking all our resources and running away with it. I would estimate about $75 trillion in current prices is what the Britain stole from India. So India was completely depleted. Then 1950 to 1990, when the Soviet model was there, Soviet model was designed to extract resources from agriculture and put it in industry. But the British through Zamindar system and depleted the agriculture. So what we need today is how to incentivize the people to do the right thing. For agriculture, we must give first priority. Why? Because it's the only sector where we can rule the roost globally. Our agricultural products are the cheapest in the world. And wheat, rice, milk, fruits, all these things we can export. And you don't have to give subsidies once you export, because the prices you will get is basmati price quality in Japan is sold 6 times the price you charge in India. Same thing wheat, American wheat is 4 times more expensive than our vegetables. And we can also produce huge amount because we are not yet been able to tap the productivity of land. We are still 1 crop per season when we can grow 3 crops a season. So I have said the reform should be number 1, agriculture as the lead sector.
That's interesting at a time when people are saying focus on move away from agriculture.
2, the second thing which should be there in the budget and is not there is innovations, because you have got the youngest population between the ages of 15 and 35.
Correct.
In the world. Average age of the Indian population is only 26 years. America is 37, China is 35, Britain and European countries are 46, Japan is 50. They are all aging populations. Whereas this population should have been, the education sector should have been so developed by tax incentives, this, that, land, that we should have had, in every district we should have had an IIT. Every district we should have an All India Medical Institute, and we should have encouraged private sector to get into it in a big way. But we wanted control. Even today, IITs, they are controlled by government. So I myself was an IIT professor, and Mrs. Gandhi had to just give one statement. Such a man like Dr. Swamy should not be in a government institution, and I was dismissed. Of course, I won the case after 47 years.
Recently, in fact, yes.
But then, others would have left for America. I said, no, I will not leave for America.
But see, this budget, you don't see it doing, because they are trying to say PSU disinvestment, they've encouraged startups.
They say disinvestment. What is this disinvestment? They are selling family silver.
Huh.
Why you are selling Air India?
You're against Air India sale. But what
No,
are you doing with it?
I will go to court if they sell.
But why? They're doing nothing with it, so you might have.
No, Air India has lots of. First of all Indians prefer Air India.
Because
we are going back. Yeah, because our people are familiar with our cultural. They are cold animals in foreign airlines, you see. Whereas our people require the parents, this thing, we are totally. And so they are, despite everything about Air India, it's packed. And all the profitable routes were given away during the UPA period to other airlines. And you just went on all the places where, now if you go to America today, you go to Dubai and then catch Emirates and go to America, or go to the Abu Dhabi and then go by Etihad. So I mean, Indian traffic has been siphoned off in a very large way, and of course I am fighting court cases. But Air India has one other attribute which we can't say publicly, but I can. You want to send 6 RAW agents for an operation abroad. Can you send them on a private airline for a foreign country? Can't do that.
Correct.
You want to send some confidential, papers. Would you be able to trust a foreign airline for it? There are certain operations for which you need, a country like India needs a government-owned airline.
And this plan of raising money through sovereign bonds, there's been a lot of both sides on it.
We are not ready for it. If we do it now, we will be in trouble. You see, first of all, your non-banking financial corporations, they're all in a mess. Because when the banks were having all these NPAs, money was being given by people who are putting it in the NBFC. And now suddenly, the interest rates are such that the NBFC is unable to pay. So we have a major financial system collapse in the near future. I wrote about it from 2016 in the Hindu newspaper, op-ed, which I have to give Hindu credit, they had the guts to publish, because it was anti-government. I said, this is not the way to do it. There is a question in economics of macroeconomics and microeconomics. And Prime Minister doesn't know the difference because he has not been trained in economics. No one who is not trained formally in economics can know the difference. The reason I am making that distinction is, in microeconomics, demand and supply will tell you how prices move. If the demand increases, the prices will increase. If the demand falls, the prices will have to fall if you want to sell. But in macroeconomics, if the demand rises, then the resources from other sectors come into and produce a supply. Or if I raise interest rates, what will happen is small and medium industries will go out of business because their cost of capital will go up, and it will cause unemployment. In America, depression took place because the American president thought that if he reduces the wage rates by persuading the companies, the trade unions, then people will employ more. But actually people employed less, because once you reduce wages, then the purchasing power also goes down.
Correct. Yeah.
Demand also goes down, and therefore you go out of business. That means unemployment.
So this taxing the super rich will follow the same logic?
It is, nobody can in this country tax the super rich. They will bribe the income tax officer.
So in the end,
Escape
it's
it, yeah. So the only solution for the tax problem is abolition of income tax and collect the tax by other means like 2G spectrum auction, coal blocks.
now there's a 5G spectrum coming.
And now, yeah, because you will always get 1, 2, 3, 4, it will go on.
Right.
2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and 6G is already there, is on the research anvil.
Already, man.
Already. So you will never have shortage of that. Coal blocks. I mean, you get how much for out of the income tax revenues you got, you will get 6 times more by auctioning coal blocks.
Transparent auction.
Just auction them. And there are many other things to be auctioned. Then you have to go for innovations like desalination seawater. There will be no shortage of water. When the Tamilian newspapers asked me, are you on side of Karnataka or side of Tamil Nadu on this Kaveri water? So I said, first you must answer whether you want Kaveri water or you want water. Because if you want water, I will desalinate water and give you the water. Correct. But if you want Kaveri water, I can't give you because there is no water to give. So India needs innovation, for which India has got a younger generation. For that you must give them world-class education, which is very easy to do. Indian professors world over are giving world-class education to other countries, but not to India.
What happened? What went wrong?
With me and him? Nothing, he was corrupt. That's all.
Is just a name you picked up, or is it?
No. See, it happened when that during Narasimha Rao's time. It was Narasimha Rao who terminated his ministership on something called fair growth or something.
Yes,
that share thing. So I started with that. There, those days I never argued myself. So I relied on a lawyer, and the lawyer made a mess of the petition that we filed. So there were contradictory things, and so that led to the case being the court asking me to file again. So by then the elections came, and so I left. Yes, there is no doubt that Chidambaram has tried very hard to send me to jail, but he is a very incompetent fellow. First time was in 1997, saying I was a friend of Dr Swamy. Now, I didn't realize that being friends with anybody. I'm friends with a lot of people. If I'm only going to be friends with good people, then there will be nobody. I mean, hardly have any friends.
No friends, huh?
Only if I have divine people. Everybody has some minuses and pluses. You see, that's human nature. Then again, in 2011, he tried to get me in under this Hindu terror business. I had written a book on how to fight terrorism, where I spoke about Muslim population who must accept that their ancestors are Hindus, which is, I said, DNA studies show that. So he converted that into a hate speech, which by the way Jaitley also did, but he didn't get anywhere thanks to the Prime Minister and Gadkari and some of the other, Rajnath, etc. and so on. They all stood up, and that's how it didn't happen. Otherwise, they were aiming at sending me that nincompoop who became our Attorney General. He had to be told to withdraw his petition. Anyway, the issue is that what he was trying to do is put me under this Hindu terror business by saying that this book, which Manmohan Singh bought 500 copies and distributed to all the embassies to read as the ideal book from India on how to fight defense. I used to go to defense college to give lectures on that book because it became a text for them, for the National Defense College. So suddenly he picked it up and he tried all the police stations. None of them would refuse, all refused to file an FIR. So he finally filed it in the Home Ministry's anti-terrorist branch police station. He filed an FIR, but then I got it quashed by the Delhi High Court. So he couldn't get very far. At that time I had said, now it's my turn.